PSNY.
And we're back, folks. The Fantasy Sports Playbook with Dado and Sabo. And Dado, what's going on this week, entering week 4?
I'm just happy week 3 is over. Week 3 was one of those weeks where you lose every week in fantasy, your team loses, and it just makes you want to slam your head into a door.
No, it didn't work out for you on DraftKings?
DraftKings, well, I had Mike Evans in all my lineups, and I was feeling pretty good about it. And then last minute, I read 2 pieces of articles or 2 pieces of information online. So I swapped out Evans for Kenny Golladay, and then I swapped out Mark Ingram for Sony Michel. And that's pretty much how my week went. I basically just threw away 70 fantasy points for about a grand total of maybe 11. So, yeah, it wasn't that good. And, it's that last-minute switching that kills me. I've been so good the first 2 weeks, and I fell for it last week.
Yeah, folks, if a fantasy expert tells you he gets every pick right, or, better yet, doesn't let you in on the picks he gets wrong, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him, because he gets a lot. The guys you're listening to on Sirius, they get a lot of stuff wrong all the time. And our guy Dado is filling you in right now, which is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm not, this is the week that was just one of those weeks. Like you said, I had the bad picks and I had some good ones and swapped them out last minute. I mean, that's the thing. When you're looking for last minute advice for daily fantasy, it's so tough to ignore some of the late pieces of information you hear. With James White being out late last game to kind of with the birth of his child, I saw a stat online by a pretty famous DFS or a fantasy sports writer saying that in the 4 games he's missed in the past, 3 of them, a Patriots running back got 30 or more touches running the ball. So I went with Sony Michel being the lead guy, and that did not work out.
Yeah, I'm looking at my DFS from Sunday. I did great across the board, except for 3 spots. Marquise Brown, Marquise Goodwin, and Darwin Thompson. My other guys were Kyler Murray, 19, Zeke, 14, McCaffrey, 26, Evans, 41, Ingram, 20, and the Cowboys D. So if I just would have hit on those 3, I'd be looking pretty.
And that's what it comes down to. I mean, like I mentioned in the previous podcast, two of the 3 weeks in week 1 and 2, I was 1 player away from hitting it big in multiple lineups. It's that 1 or 2 players at the end when you just don't know who to put in the last spots, or that's going to make you win or it's going to make you lose. And unfortunately for us, you last week and me the week before, it just went the wrong way.
Yeah, and speaking of the waiver wire this week, is it garbage? Is it just straight garbage? Can you actually recommend anything?
I mean, the obvious pickups are the Giants guys, Daniel Jones and Wayne Galladay, but I mean, I just don't see them doing anything. I feel like this is probably going to be Daniel Jones's greatest fantasy game, maybe of his career. I mean, 33 fantasy points, 353 yards in the air, 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. I don't remember anybody on ESPN talking about this guy was an athletic guy who can run. Do you?
I knew he had mobility. Didn't realize. I mean, listen, let's take it for what it is. The first one was a read option. The first one he ran in, so it was a designed run, which Shermer was probably antsy to do, considering Manning was in there. The second one, he just took advantage of Bulls not calling a QB spy. So it's not like he's going to be running, the Lamar Jackson, Colin Kaepernick offense. He's more in the mold of an Aaron Rodgers. That's the type of alignment you'll see in terms of rushing touchdown production, rushing yards production, and Aaron Rodgers. Think of him like that.
All right, so yeah, that's a serviceable guy. He'll get you 100, 200 yards rushing. It's just the 2 touchdowns are so fluky. I mean, if you get rid of those, he had 22 fantasy points. Still a great day, but he's going to be the top QB ad this week. And then Gallman, he showed in the past that, man, he does not he just doesn't find holes. He just runs straight into the back of his guards and he falls forward for 3 to 4 yards if he's lucky. He's going to be another popular pick. I mean, like I was just talking to you earlier, I'm going to have to add him in a league because I'm hurting at running back. But don't expect him to be, anything more than 15 fantasy points a game. Get you 15, you're lucky. I'm more expecting anywhere from like 7 to 9 a game. If he falls in the end zone, maybe 12. But I'm not really impressed with him. I mean, other people you can look at, don't buy into the Taylor Gabriel. That was just a fluke game. He has one of these big games every year. Don't buy into him. But again, if you need these depth and with the bye weeks coming up this week, if you need to add him, do it. But again, these aren't any guys that are going to be helping you for the rest of the season, especially later on down the season.
No, I would say, yeah, go ahead and grab Gallman, but don't go crazy.
Yeah,
The good
keep
news
the
is they have,
expectations.
yes, and the good news is they do have a better offensive line now. I mean, if it was last year and Saquon got hurt, I'd say forget about it. Don't even touch the guy. But yeah, temper your expectations. Go for it.
I mean, if
It's
there's
not,
one, if there, my bad, there's
yeah,
one player that I'm really kind of liking. I'm not really buying the Rex Burkhead. That was just because James White's back. Once James White is back, I think Rex Burkhead's going to kind of go back to the side. Philip Dorsett, though, he looks like he's going to be a pretty decent part of this offense. I mean, he had 6 for 53 and a touchdown. With no Antonio Brown, we saw it in the first week that he scored a touchdown as well. So if you're that might be a wide receiver 3 or a flex play, Philip Dorsett could be a guy that I'm looking to add in most leagues because I believe in his talent, especially if Tom Brady's throwing the ball.
yeah, no, I agree. Go hard after Dorsett. If if for some reason Hardman is still out there, grab Hardman.
Oh, yes, real quick.
I just happened to see him on the screen here. That's why I brought him up. Um, Metcalf. What about Chris Carson, by the way? What do
Oh,
you do if you have Chris Carson?
so I'm writing an article tonight for Elite, and it's about players you should trade for or players you should trade away, and he is on the list. I'm not going to give it away just yet, but there are some concerns with the fumbling and his confidence. He fumbled the ball last game, and then when they gave him another chance after he had 5 rushes for a total of 4 yards, it looks like his confidence is shot. But again, depending on your league, if you have running back depth, I would hold on to him. But if you need a running back, or it's so tough. I mean, Rashard Penny's coming back. He looked really good in week 1 or week 2, sorry, and that could be a backfield that could get split. But we just got to hope next week. He has a great matchup against Arizona, so I'm buying him next week. If he doesn't do well this week, it might be time to sell him.
Who else is on your sell low, buy high list as of right
So
now?
2 guys that I'm buying are on the same team: Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Now, again, I had Aaron Rodgers as my number 1 receiver or quarterback, and I had Devontae Adams as my number 1 wideout. They went against Chicago, Minnesota, and Denver. Those are 3 really, really good pass defenses. And they kind of got the run game going against because even though those teams can stop the pass, the run they can give up some plays in the running game. So I'm buying Aaron Rodgers, who's his owner is probably looking to sell him anyway, because when you're drafting Aaron Rodgers, you're looking at a top 10 guy. I believe he's the 22nd best quarterback so far. So buying Aaron Rodgers, buying Devontae Adams, I expect him to have big bounce back next couple of weeks and be on track of being the top guys at their position.
What are you doing with Amari Cooper? I think he's the number 4
Oh.
wideout right now.
I did not like Amari Cooper coming in. I knew he was going to have a huge first couple of weeks just because of that soft schedule, and him and his teammate Dak Prescott also make the list. I'm not telling you if you're going to buy him or not or sell him, but you can pretty much guess with Dak Prescott that I'm saying get rid of him because who they had the Giants, the Redskins, and then the Dolphins. It doesn't get much worse than that when it comes to secondaries and defenses. I'm selling both of them. I think you can get a lot for Dak, and I think you can get a whole lot for Amari. So if you can find the guy out there that's willing, that needs some QB help, I would trade Dak. And then if I'm anybody out there, I'm looking to trade Amari Cooper because the foot injury is going to keep coming back, that plantar fasciitis. And again, the soft schedule is really beefing up their stats.
Yeah, it's funny. I have Cooper in 2 of the 3 of my leagues, and Rodgers in all 3.
Okay,
So
so
so I'm gonna have to see who has Devontae Adams and
see, I love doing that. I mean, if you have Aaron Rodgers and you have now the next couple weeks, Amari Cooper's got New Orleans, who's got a lockdown corner. Green Bay's been better. The Jets secondary is The Eagles secondary is But once it comes to the playoffs, they have Chicago, the Rams, Buffalo, New England. They got a tough couple stretches. When you're really going to need Amari Cooper, he might go missing.
See right now, okay, this one league I'm in, the guy actually put Devontae Adams on the block, and he's looking for a running back, and he's 0-3. I have Rogers, Cooper, so some semblant. I think Cooper and something else for Adams would probably get it done. I mean, he's the number 4 receiver in the league right now.
Oh
So I
yeah.
think that's the type of trade I should jump all over, and Cooper owners should as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, every year fantasy players panic. So I put a couple of these stats in here. So Antonio Brown last season, for the, through the first 3 weeks, he was wide receiver 14, which when you drafted him first, as with your number one pick, you really weren't expecting that. Weeks 4 through 16, he was a number one receiver, and it happens all the time. I mean, Keenan Allen last year, what was he, a top 3 round pick last year, somewhere around there?
Mhm.
Weeks 1 through 3, wide receiver 36. Weeks 4 through 16, he was wide receiver 10. So there's a lot of reasons for this, either injured in the preseason, not getting the preseason reps, or just tough matchups. I think Devontae Adams falls under the tough matchups aspect where he has 0 touchdowns. He's led all receivers in touchdowns over the past 2 seasons. That's just not going to catch up. That's just not going to keep up.
Right, right. How about any more buy low, sell highs you got on the mind or no?
Well, now, I know you're probably getting pretty sick of me talking about my boy, but Kyler Murray
This
doesn't,
guy.
again, he just doesn't. He's 5'2" back there. He can't see over the offensive line, but their schedule in the next 7 to 8 weeks, all the way up to the fantasy playoffs, they face bottom 10 defenses from here on out. So they start off next week, have Seattle, the worst secondary in football. Then they have Cincinnati, probably the second worst secondary. Then they have Atlanta, New Orleans, the Giants, San Fran, Tampa, San Fran. That right there in the next 8 weeks is fantasy gold. He is going to go bonkers this week. And last week against Carolina, he finally showed that he can run the ball a little bit. I'm expecting him to be a top 7 fantasy quarterback from here, or probably for the rest of the season. He's going to go bonkers. Buy Kyler Murray now. And I think he's available in some leagues, surprisingly.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking. He's 13th right now in a 4 point per passing touchdown league. I think he's 13th at quarterback. Listen, he's a far better fantasy player than reality player,
Oh,
I
100%.
believe.
100%.
Um, so yeah, go with Dotto on this one.
Again, like you just said, when I watch him play, I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to last in the NFL. He's too small. He doesn't look like he's the most accurate quarterback. But those matchups, those games are going to be playing. They're going to probably be the highest scoring games just because their defense is bad. The opposing defenses are bad, and he's going to look so good on paper. But again, he's not a quarterback that I want on my team in real life. But in fantasy, I want him for the next 8 to 10 weeks.
But okay, so other quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson. You're going to disagree, but I'm going to say sell high. Sell high on this guy now. He's number 2, only behind Mahomes. He's played Miami, Arizona, and KC. And KC's defense is not a juggernaut, folks. Lamar, I worry more about his health than his actual fantasy production. Again, better fantasy quarterback. His offensive coordinator is Greg Roman, the same guy who helped Colin Kaepernick in 2012 and eventually get to the Super Bowl. That only lasts for so long. I think that's eventually going to wear off. I'll give the listeners a sell high on Lamar Jackson. What do you say?
You know what? I'm actually gonna have to agree with you on my boy. I mean, last week is what I think he's gonna be giving fantasy owners: 22 for 43 passing the ball, only 51%, 267 yards, no passing touchdowns. But where he gives you his value again, is why I liked him in the preseason, is the 46 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. He pretty much had all of his fantasy points on one play, and like you said, those matchups have been awful. I am looking to. I've actually in our league, I've sent some trade offers out giving away Lamar Jackson because again, like you said, he just can't keep it up. Before this game, he was scoring a touchdown on 13% of his throws, which is an astronomical number. The league average is 4, and that's finally coming down as we saw last week. So again, he's still going to give you some good numbers, but he's not going to give you the 33 and 30 points that he did the first 2 weeks. Sell high on him as soon as you can.
Guys are wide open, and I think availability is the number one thing with him. He hasn't proved to be an injury-prone guy, and I could be dead wrong on that, but it's the way he plays. It
Yep.
fits right in there with the dangerous quarterbacks. Um, Anything else? Buy low, sell high?
I mean, I'm really liking Russell Wilson, what he's finally doing. I mean, he's the number 4 quarterback, and people coming into the season were really down on him. I mean, the first week he had 16 fantasy points, last week 24, and then this previous week at 41. He shows his upside. He's finally running the ball a little bit more. He threw for 400 yards. And again, they're going against Arizona next week. You got Cleveland, Atlanta, Tampa, San Fran coming up on the schedule. He's a guy that, I mean, you probably might have to trade a little bit more to get him, but I always love Russell Wilson. Whenever quarterbacks can run the ball and they're finally letting him throw the ball a little bit more, I love Russell Wilson. If you can get him, get him. And the other guys, I still like Josh Allen. I don't like Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is awful. Same with Baker Mayfield. If you have those two, just trade them away now because I'm not buying into either one of them.
Right, I agree. How about daily plays this week? Have you dug in yet, or no? It's a little too
Oh, of
early.
course. I dug in right when I realized I took out Mike Evans. I was like, all right, on to week 4. So some of the plays I'm really liking, again, are the Russell Wilson, the Tyler Lockett. Again, going against Arizona, it's going to be a theme. I play the matchups, not really the plays. And it kind of showed you last week of Daniel Jones. You ignore the name and you play the matchups. Tampa Bay's awful. You want to play quarterbacks against them. So the first stack I'm really going with is Russell Wilson, who's somewhat cheap. He's probably the 8th ranked highest quarterback in terms of price. And Tyler Lockett, you get a nice little 1-2 combo. And when he's throwing the ball, he's looking at Tyler Lockett. He had 14 targets last week, and he had 12 the week before. So that's a perfect, not expensive little duo you can start your little lineups with. This week actually is going to be a lot tougher than the other previous weeks because there are a lot tougher matchups. So looking at running back, I mean, Dalvin Cook going against Chicago. Chicago has been a pretty decent run defense, but this year they've been getting ran on a little bit more. Running backs are going to be tough this week. So again, I like David Johnson. I like Kyler Murray. I might just do a Seattle and Arizona stack this week just because I think it's going to be such a high scoring game.
Could we take a minute to call out FanDuel DraftKings for leaving Saquon Barkley and injured players in there? I mean, I know the whole name of the game is money, but really, we're going to take advantage of all these people who choose Saquon Barkley this coming week.
Yeah, they've really got to do something about that. I mean, they do that, like you said, they try to if they get that with 1 or 2 people, people got to realize that every time one of us put a lineup in, it's money in FanDuel and DraftKings pocket, which I'm not angry at because they got to make money somehow too. But again, Saquon Barkley being the 2nd highest priced running back when people knew before before the slate was even created that he was going to be out, I agree. That's just Bush League.
Yeah, and listen, we do stuff with DraftKings all the time, but got to call them out every now and then. And Cleveland on the ESNY NFL preview before the season, I went 8-8 with Cleveland. Their offensive line was horrible. Everyone was overlooking it. The coaching staff was unproven. Freddie Kitchens' face was red all Sunday night. I don't know why it was so damn red. He looked like Tom Coughlin from the Green Bay game in 07. What is going on with Cleveland? What do you do with Mayfield, Chubb, and all those boys?
See, I'm liking Chubb. He's still getting you 17, 19 fantasy points, but the play calling has been awful. They're just running these routes where receivers have to get open 15, 20 yards down the field, and Baker Mayfield just doesn't have time doing it. And it's been awful. Mayfield is 9 fantasy points, 15, 9. Again, I still like Baker Mayfield, but the play calling has been awful. They're not putting him in a good position. That's what you got to do when you have a franchise quarterback. Oh, I don't know. Their schedule's not very good either. I'm staying away from Baker. If you have Chubb and you can trade him away for somebody, maybe a little bit more value, maybe somebody like a Derrick Henry, I'd probably pull that trigger, but I'm staying away from Cleveland. The hype was too much this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, this is their problem. And Collinsworth said it on the broadcast. 3-step drops work, but anything past a 3-step drop, the O-line can't block. If the O-line can't block, and there's no such thing as offensive line units in fantasy football, even though I would love to see it. If the offensive line is so impactful when it comes to fantasy football, and we're seeing it in Cleveland right now.
Oh, 100%. And, he's probably being blinded out there because what our boy Odell Beckham out there is just wearing those $200,000 watches, and that's been the most impressive thing about this Cleveland Browns offense has just been his watches when he's been wearing on the field. Did you see he didn't wear a chain last week when they played the Rams?
No, I didn't see it.
Because of Aqib Talib out there always ripping off Michael Crabtree's little chain he always wears. He didn't wear a chain this week because, he didn't want to get it snatched. So he's already playing scared out there, and it's week 3.
Yeah, 1-2 Browns, 1-2 Giants.
One and
Oh,
two
baby.
Eagles. Oh, I
Yeah,
can't
you guys are
believe
gonna
this.
be, you guys will be fine.
Did you see
Yeah,
how many They dropped
yeah.
3 touchdowns, and like the one at the end of the game was a tough play, but oh man, Carson Wentz out there has to be begging for for the receivers to get healthy. It was ugly. I don't know how many f bombs I dropped last week. It was one of those games where you expect your team to win, and when they don't, you're just like, what is going on right now?
And I say the Jets will be tough in week 5 for the Eagles. They will be tough.
Well, it depends if is Darnold still making out chicks, or is he actually just not doing it anymore? Is he just taking a break?
I think he took the Joe Namath thing a little too seriously because he's Broadway Sam right now. I think he'll be back. I think he's going to be starting for week 5. They already cut their backup quarterback.
Oh, so that's a good sign for him to come back.
Yeah, it's a good sign. They're off this week. Mosley and Darnold will be back. Their offensive line still sucks, but it won't be easy for Philly in week 5.
Oh, Philly's schedule sucks coming up. Green Bay Thursday night, Minnesota, Dallas, Buffalo, Chicago, New England, Seattle, top 10 draft pick. Oh, it's gonna be awful.
And you know what's funny?
Uh,
Aguilar with the drops. What was it? 2 weeks ago?
yeah. Well,
Uh,
this week too, he's awful. He can't catch anything.
he give him props for this. There was something. There was a news story in Philly where a veteran saved lives in a house burning down or something,
Yeah.
and he was interviewed on TV, and he's like, "Ah, well, at least I didn't drop it like Nelson Aguilar." And Aguilar saw it and retweeted it and said, "That's a real hero." Like he didn't get mad at the joke. Give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give him credit for that. I just he shows this throughout his. I don't think the Eagles are bringing him back. This is his 5th year with the team. He shows spurts where he just catches everything, and then literally just the wide open passes. I mean, I want to blame Carson Wentz, but watching that game, you can't. It's not his fault if every single receiver is dropping passes. And now that everyone's going to double team Zach Ertz until Jeffrey or Deshaun Jackson gets back, it's going to be a struggle. And they had Super Bowl hopes, but they need to either trade for a cornerback or get another receiver. If not, it's going to be an 8-8 season, and it's just going to be a lost season for the Eagles.
What I'm not crying for you. You're coming off a Super Bowl 2 years ago. I mean, geez. I don't know what that's like.
Hey, it feels like it's been forever. But again, I agree. When I look back on it, I'm always like, man, if the Eagles can just get one Super Bowl in my lifetime, I'll be good for like 10 years. And now
Yeah,
that they
you
got a
sold your
Super
soul.
Bowl, and now I got my Super Bowl, and I'm like, man, but the team's still good. It's still basically the same team, and they just can't stay healthy. And if your team can't stay healthy, you're just not going to win.
Anything else stand out for daily on Sunday? Receivers, tight ends,
I mean,
anything of
there's a
that
couple.
nature?
Receivers is going to be a little bit easier to pick through this week than running back. Again, running back's going to be tough this week. I think receivers, you have some pretty good matchups. Again, if Green Bay was playing in the Sunday, I would say Devontae Adams would be the number one guy, but he's not. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's kind of becoming a boomer bust type of play. He had 3 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. A guy you drafted in the top 10 receiver doing that. I know Mason Rudolph is the reason why, but man, I don't know. Dallas, New Orleans. I mean, I think Amari Cooper could be a decent play, but they also have Lattimore out there who's either going to lock everyone down or he's going to give up a bunch of touchdowns. It's going to be tough. Ooh, I'm looking at the schedule now. You can't
How
trust
about the
Minnesota.
monster? How about the monster Cooper Cup?
Cooper Kupp, he's a top 5 to 7 receiver for the rest of the season if he stays healthy. He's a monster. When they put him in the slot, he's going against safeties or weaker cornerbacks or even linebackers. I love Cooper Kupp. If you can get Cooper Kupp in a league and the person who owns him isn't really buying into him, that dude's a stud.
Yeah, let's give a bow to me after week 1. Carson, great game. I trade Carson for Montgomery and Cup.
Oh, that's right. You did do that.
It's working out not bad.
Oh, your receiver core, him, Evans. Yeah, you know what?
Cup,
You need to do a
Evans,
bad trade. You need to do a bad trade. Offer me
Michael
something.
Thomas,
Oh
Evans,
yeah. Oh, my team's
Michael
so good.
Thomas, Evans, Cup, Mike Williams,
Oh,
McLaurin.
my name's Rob, and I'm so good at fantasy football. Yeah, your team is so good. I hate it. I'm like scrapping to get a number 2 running back because I traded all my picks to you, and here you are, just
Listen, I haven't won a championship, not counting other leagues, like my main leagues. Now, this second
mhm.
league, is like a branch off of the main league. So it's the
Yeah.
first year, but in the other league haven't won a championship since '05, '06. So
See,
don't be calling me good. I
see,
am chipless. I am chipless in a decade.
I had a league like that where we had it just ended last year, where we did it for 12 years, and I got to the championship game every year for the first 7 years and lost it every single year. And then the last 3 years of the league, I won it, and people literally quit the league because I kept winning the league and I wouldn't stop shit talking. But like you
Uh,
said, when you have that main league and you finally win it, it's like when you only care about that one league, it just makes it that much better.
it's not easy. I mean,
Oh no, it's not.
even if you're a hybrid format and points get you in the playoffs, you got to win those. You got to win those playoff games.
And
It's a lot of, it's a lot of you can't. There's no defense in fantasy football.
that's what
So
people don't realize. Like now, like I'm probably 2-1 or 1-2 in most leagues. If you think your team has a chance to make the playoffs, I always look at the fantasy playoff schedule now because people aren't looking at it. It's only week 4. People are like, "Oh, it's too far away." But this is where you find matchups. This is where you can make trades. I've actually traded my top players for maybe a tiered down type of player because I like their schedule more, and it's paid off in the past. Don't be afraid to trade someone like Mike Evans, who I mean, I'm just throwing a name out there because I saw he's a top scorer.
mhm.
But I mean, his fantasy playoff, if he doesn't have good matchups there and you're relying on this guy to be your number one dude, look at another guy like a Tyler Lockett or, a guy like that. Don't be afraid to trade him and get some draft picks because it's going to be great if you win your regular season. But if you come to the playoffs and you have tough matchups, it's gonna be tough to win.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine. You have McCaffrey, Devontae Adams, Lamar, Ridley, Edelman. Edelman's healthy, right? Did
No.
Edelman played last week, right?
Yeah, he played. He had 17, but he got hurt. He got a rib injury, but they're saying he's going to come back. He's another
And
guy
Tyrell
too. I love
Williams.
him.
Tyrell Williams is a number 2 receiver in my mind.
Uh, yeah, but your team is so much better. I got to make a trade. I mean, people just. I don't like being average. When I think my team's average, I'll try. I'll do a bunch of 2-for-1s to get a bunch of the one players to improve my team. Because if you have, it's not just the starting lineup. People realize is now we have bye weeks coming up. Injuries are going to start popping up more like they always do. It's all about depth at this point. And if you don't have any depth, like it showed last week for me, I played a running back who got 0 points because I had to play Latavius Murray. If you don't have any depth, it's going to come back and hurt you. Now's the time to start trading. See who's 0-3. Maybe you trade 2 players for their one because they need more depth. So I mean, now's the time. If you're going to trade, now's the time to do it. You don't want to do it closer to the playoffs because that's when teams get a little bit more stingy with the people they're going to get rid of.
And understand your league, how many guys are owned,
Yep.
how many bench spots there are. In this dynasty league that me and Lawrence always talk about, it's only 10-team league. There's an extra flex and there's 8 bench. So with the 3 IDPs, there's around 200 actually exactly 200 players owned. But
Mm-hmm.
taking out the kickers, taking out the IDPs, that's 4 times 160 players, offensive players owned. That's a little more than like say the other league I'm in where it's 144, 12 times 12. So understand how much talent is out there in free agency because that is pretty big. Like being in a league, the other league I'm in where it's only 5 bench, very difficult to navigate through the bye weeks.
Oh, absolutely. And again, that's a huge point where people don't realize they're like, oh man, but I'm in a 10 team. But if it's a standard league, there should be plenty of depth out there. But if not, it gets tough. I'm even looking at our free agent list, and there's not a lot out there that gets me too excited.
No, no. I haven't looked at it yet for this week. I actually should do that today. But nothing, right? I mean, running back, Gus
No,
Edwards,
it
maybe. Hope Jamal Williams, hoping for an injury. Penny, Gallman.
and that's what you got to hope for. And you got to hope for, handcuff. And this is handcuffing season for me now. If I'm looking at my bench spot and I see a guy like I have Chris Davis on my team, and I'm sitting there looking at him like, well, Tennessee sucks, and I'm not ever going to play him. I'm going to look through the free agent list and be like, all right, well, does anybody have Todd Gurley's handcuff? Yes. All right, go on. I'll snag another player's handcuff. So if his player gets hurt, I can just throw him out there for a trade and get a better person out of it.
Right.
Corey Davis, I
Uh,
said Chris Davis. Sorry, I had baseball in the mind.
no, no problem. So, and tight end, Mark Andrews finally took a step back this weekend.
Yeah, and that's going to be the same thing with Lamar Jackson. Again, the touchdown rates were just too hard to obtain, and you got to look at that. If the guy's fantasy points, if the guy's getting 8 catches for 120 yards and he's only scoring a touchdown every other game, I like those players instead of the guys who are just getting 2, 3 touchdowns a game because touchdowns are the hardest stat to predict in fantasy football.
That's why the Colts tight end. What was his name? Ebron. The Ebron
Yep.
hype was just out of control coming into this year.
Oh yeah, Ebron. I hated him, and even Jacoby Brissett, if he's available in your league too, he's another player that I love. That
Mhm.
go out there and at him. He looks better than half the other quarterbacks out there.
Would you propel Ingram to the number 2 tight end, fantasy tight end right now?
Yeah, I he was number 4 on my list heading into the season, and I even wrote that he has a chance just to get projected up to the top tier. And again, him and George Kittle, I was a little iffy on because again, George Kittle, Garoppolo don't seem to mix, and even the Giants, they don't have many pass catchers. And he showed in the past when even when OBJ wasn't there that he steps into that bigger role. He was the only tight end, I think, in fantasy history to finish as a top 10 at the position or top 5. And that was because OBJ went down. And again, I love his upside. If you have him, hold on to him. He's the real deal. The same with Sterling Shepard.
And we'll finish on lottery tickets. Is Darwin Thompson dead to you now? Now that Darrell
Oh,
Williams played over him?
yeah, it's looking like this was the opportunity that you and me wanted to play him so bad that and it was just like, all right, this is his opportunity to get out there. Just didn't get out there. It's time to just throw him back in the free agent wire and hope maybe down the road they realize the talent they have. But if not, even in dynasty leagues, it's hard to waste a roster spot on a guy that's never gonna play.
The worst part is he looked dynamic. He
Oh,
looked great when he
he
ran.
looks
Not,
so good.
yeah, his athleticism looked good. His mind wasn't there. Running the right spots, running the right holes, reading the right blocks, and his pass protection's not there. So
No.
Andy Reid has got to be killing Andy Reid not to play him. But yeah, how about Darrell Williams as a waiver wire pick? What do you think about him?
I mean, he's got some potential out there. I kind of do like him a little bit. I really didn't watch too much of that game. I have to go back probably tonight or tomorrow to watch that, but the stats look pretty decent. And I'm not gonna sit here and BS people and say I watched the game, but he did every time I seemed to watch a game cast, his name was popping up. So if you need somebody again, if you have a Corey Davis, if you have these other players on your roster, like, well, I might play him on a bye week, I might not. Cut him and pick up him because I mean, you want any part of that Kansas City offense you can get.
All right, that'll do it for us this week. After week 3, heading into week 4, we'll catch you again one more time before the weekend. Catch you guys later.